Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are, wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, Digital Media Relations Manager here in Chesterfield. Very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, I have had this gentleman on the podcast before. Unfortunately, this will be his last appearance on the. I mean, unless, I don't know. I guess you could come back at some point, but I've got Dr. Joe Casey, who is retiring as of July 1st. Dr. Casey, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Brad. And I'll be glad to come back on a slow day.
And a slow day. Now, as we record this, it's Thursday, June the 18th. You got a couple weeks left. Before we get into the meat of what I've got planned for you.
I would say 12 days.
Oh, not that you're counting or anything. Well, I guess that's actually kind of what I wanted to start. I want to kind of start at the end, which is, you've often shared over the past few months, why you decided to retire and why now. I'm curious as we sit here today with, those 12 days left. Has the lead up to this gone the way you thought it would go? Have the last, 7 months been essentially, as things started to sort of draw down and as you get closer to that end goal, has it felt the way you expected it to feel?
I've never retired before, so I can't speak to the fact. But, if you think about the average person when they announce a retirement or announce they're leaving, and I did that in middle of December.
Right.
So people think 2 weeks notice, maybe 30 days, maybe 60 days. So around February, it's like, I thought you were retired already. And then they start working you harder.
Yeah.
But it is a process. And so I was respectful of knowing and being in this profession that it takes 6 to 7 months to go through with an elected body properly to discern all those that are interested and hire the right person. So, but having said that, you get the initial fanfare initially, and there's so many different groups and pieces and parts that's an annual event of this or a quarterly event of that many of the things, and I did even in December, were my last time amongst a certain body, if that makes sense. And so but then unfortunately, there's certain peers in my organization that also go to all these events with me, and they've already eaten cake like 6 times.
Listen, there's never too many times to eat cake. I'm also curious, as you've gone through these last few months, you just referenced something that I actually wanted to dig into, which was, there are a handful of things that you do every year, right? You didn't get to the sort of July to December timeframe, right, of those events. You didn't get to sort of have this be the last one that you did this or the last one you did that. As you were kind of thinking about this decision and stuff, I can imagine, though, that you kind of might have thought maybe this is the last time. Are there things, as you look back on this last year, and we can say not just the last 7 months since you announced it, but then even before, what kind of stands out to you about this last year in your role as county administrator? What as you look back on this last year, because I'm going to ask you to start looking back a little further here in a second, but as you look back on the last year, what are some of the things that really stand out to you?
It's the people. It's the people that made me come here initially.
Yeah.
There's 400,000 of them, and I think I've gotten to know almost all of them in 10 years. But it's the different types of conversations that you have with them. It's not the person who's giving you a lot of homework to do necessarily, but to also be reflective of themselves. Because the 10 years for me, not to act selfishly, but those are my 10 years. But to people also, it's been their 10 years too.
That's right.
And so they're reflective as well. And so it's just different types of conversations I've had before.
Right.
I could have talked to someone 1,000 times, but since December, we just talk differently.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, proud parents or proud grandparents.
Yeah.
And also being honest, saying, boy, I wish we did this instead of that, or did more of that instead of this.
Yeah.
But you're still proud at the end of the day that you tried your best, and as a citizen or a business or fellow employee, even elected official, that they tried their best as well.
Right. I'm going to do something we've literally never done on the show before. I'm going to let you hear some audio, and I want you to react to it in real time. If you want to just chime in when you hear something, I will pause the audio and we can rejoin it in a second.
Do I have to name the speaker
No.
with three sounds or something?
You're gonna know exactly what this is. I think you'll know what this is pretty quickly.
As I look amongst the audience and many of the people that I passed by on the way in here today, all I can say is it's just happy to see so many familiar and friendly faces. Many of them I've actually worked with over the last 25 years. I hope that you will find that I'm a hardworking, innovative, honest, and ethical person who places tremendous value in the employee workforce and their need for work-life balances.
All right, I'm going to pause it there because for those of you who might not be aware, that is Dr. Joe Casey on the day that you were announced here on the historic courthouse steps as the new county administrator 10 years ago. When I went back and found this, one, as somebody who covered you when you were in Hanover, I still was astonished that at that point you still didn't have any of the dark up top. It was all gray still. But, to the consistency that that could have been what you're going to hear from then on. It could have been something you said last week. And I'm curious, as you hear those words, what do you remember about that day? What do you remember about saying some of these things?
Yeah. First off, I think I talk with more of a bass now than a treble, but and our audio technology is a lot better.
That's true.
It's probably also the last time I actually read a speech that was.
That was one of the things I noticed is that you were definitely reading, which is not a thing I know you to do these days. For sure.
No, I remember parking the car. Of course, the news cycles, and we're going to be going through it again, sooner than later. And I think that it's just that excitement that builds. So there was a press release that there's going to be an announcement.
Right.
I don't know who knew about it beforehand. It wasn't my business. I was really afar from it.
Right.
But I remember kind of walking, from the sidewalk in, and it was just, this is people are confirming it, guessing it.
Yeah.
There was pools and and so forth, and I was with my wife by my side, and I just remember pausing and stopping along the way, and just I didn't know if I was talking to the custodian or the elected official at that point.
Yeah.
And but also I remember it didn't matter.
Right.
Or it didn't matter whether I was talking to just a citizen who might have been retired or the biggest executive of Chesterfield County, because it didn't matter. So I remember just maybe just normalize that everybody is important.
Yeah.
And the speech, which was pre-written, reflected, I think, some of the traits that I can bring still to the table in saying that.
Were you nervous that day?
Of course you're nervous. And again, I'm kind of micromanaging. I was like, as I'm doing it, I was like, oh, that sound on Route 10 is still loud. We should have done it inside. But I was like, wait a second, I'm not the county administrator yet.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just practicing.
Can't call the shots. All right, let's rejoin past Joe Casey for a second.
It is my confidence in you as the employees, with your exceptional abilities to continue to work well, that's been a motivating factor for me in actually applying for this position.
So I want to jump in there. Applying for the position, what were some of the things that drew you to Chesterfield? And as you kind of went through that process, what was it about coming here that ultimately was the reason why you said yes?
Well, I really hadn't formally applied for a job since 1986. I was blessed that I came out of college and I applied for a job in 86 with an accounting firm, went through all the processes, but the Hanover and Henrico were just basically mine to get.
Right.
Not that I didn't fill out paperwork for those that are auditors in the audience.
For those of you paying attention.
But it was a little bit anticlimactic.
Right.
This one was something that this is way up there.
Yeah.
And I was really just trying to do it to practice it. An executive recruitment firm can be intimidating.
Yeah.
Trying the confidentiality of these processes. I was fortunate to work in Henrico where, John Batokis was fully aware of what I was doing and encouraging it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have that issue, but I can imagine that can also be a stressful factor for others. But, I was fortunate to get the call to be interviewed, then a second interview.
Yeah.
And I was like, this thing may actually happen. and as a joke back, that there's a residency requirement. Unfortunately, the board gave me an extra year to move here as I had a rising senior.
Yeah.
Who actually preferred to get an apartment next to the high school and let us move without him.
All right, let's finish this out real quick.
Together, we will continue all that is good and pursue all that is great.
As a speechwriter, that was really well done, by the way.
I want to thank the Board of Supervisors
mention that
for
real
their
quick.
confidence in me and recognize the collective efforts of their time and dedication in recruiting and selecting this position. Their commitment to serving the citizens and businesses of Chesterfield in a cooperative, customer service-oriented manner was also a major factor in my decision to apply. I am a competitive person who wants to not only catch up to others where we may be behind, but to get ahead and stay ahead. And for the many areas where we may be leading, I want to thank you. But you need to know that others are chasing you, as I have been for many years.
That's the most Joe Casey thing in this entire thing, by the way.
In Henrico and in Hanover. So we need to figure out together how to keep our lead. In Chesterfield, we have the unique opportunity to accomplish much, address many challenges, and be mindful of the importance and underlying meaning of what a first-choice community is and is not. It is not resting on the laurels of our past and present accomplishments as our world and community are changing around us. As Khalil Gibran noted, progress lies not in enhancing what is, but in advancing towards what will be. Thank you again, and I look forward to July 1st and every day thereafter working with you and for you.
So I want to dig back into the piece where you say the things we can accomplish. As you look back on the 10 years since then, what are some of those accomplishments that really stand out to you?
It is, going back to that speech, is, what I think Chesterfield has done is stay ahead. People chase us.
Yeah.
Even this interview processing that the board is going through with the next successor is people want to come here.
Yeah.
So they gave up chasing us, might as well join us. But we also have to just keep paying attention. We're ever changing. It's just like that speech itself, it wasn't static.
Yeah.
It was just always forward thinking. And I think that we are doing that. If I tell people, if there's an idea of what we can do better, we will do it as long as it doesn't adversely affect others.
Yeah. And then also too, one of the things that stuck out to me was, even in sort of trying to get your hands around this new gig that you had, you already were challenging the organization, challenging the workforce, and to some extent challenging the board of supervisors even, to continue to push forward. And as you look back on your sort of tenure this last decade, how successful do you feel like you were in some of those aspirations? Because, for all of us, we have our own internal, some people write them down. Some people have their goals for the year, their themes for the year, whatever it might be. But as you look back on the last 10 years, how successful do you feel like you were at achieving the things that you really wanted to as you took that podium that day?
I think we were really well. Just to use a sports analogy, we know how to play offense better than we did before, but we also know how to play defense. We know how to win, and great winning teams, while you think they should be beloved by all, they're not, because there's people who don't want, to be winning all the time.
Right.
So, and some of those people may even live within our own county.
Yeah.
But so we have to respect those opinions. And so we don't celebrate too hard too often, because again, especially if it's something that may have been a hard topic, but that we got through. So it's not an us and them, moment. Mm-hmm. So there's a way to do it. But at the end of the day, when you chalk up the wins and losses, we're ranked high in the standings for 10 straight years. And in fairness, Chesterfield County has been, well ranked since 1749.
Well ranked. There you go. It seems like a good time to ask a question about leadership. As you look back on this, not just this tenure, but this 10 year as your tenure, but then also just your entire career, what do you think you learned along the way about leadership?
I learned to listen more. I'm a talker. So, and sometimes, you realize, if you say something 3 times yourself, that doesn't mean others understand and believe it.
Yeah.
But I've learned that, based upon the audience, know your audience, know what they are capable of understanding. Sometimes we walk into rooms and we say things in a hard way, legal way, engineering way, financial way. That can be overwhelming to the audience. Mm-hmm. But also we can walk into other audiences that are well versed on that.
Right.
So don't lower it down. Put the information out there. If we are smart about something, then be smart about it. But don't be so smart that you're losing people in the audience. And I think we try and do that. The community meetings and these manners in which we have one-to-one discussions. Yeah. I've seen our staff, and it's like they'll talk one-on-one to somebody, same topic, but a completely different narrative relative to that person's capacity. Yeah. And when that person asks a question, we pivot to the answer of that question.
Right. I can also imagine, too, as somebody who values public service, to have been able to give back to the community the way you have is something that you're likely very proud of. What have you learned about public service, especially, because it feels like, in this kind of job, as you mentioned, you're going to always have your detractors. You can't make you're just never going to be able to make everybody happy. What have you learned about public service?
Well, public service, servant leadership is putting others before yourself. The golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated, which is, really universal across the world in many languages, in religions. But, it's walking the walk, not just talking the talk, as they say. Yeah. We could be a government that we could stay in this building all day long and push paper around or emails and issue edicts and follow policies and push rules out. But, if we're encouraging people to get involved in their community, then we have to look in the mirror and get involved ourselves. Hence, I think our workforce is volunteering a lot more than it's ever done before. We've encouraged that even through HR policies, but they're doing it on their own. The nonprofit relationships and appreciation for the variety of people that are trying to do good. And then, once you kind of have that momentum, I wouldn't say you guilt others, but you kind of just lure others back into this because the power of being out there and helping somebody, helping a stranger is a memory you're never going to forget.
Yeah. Along those same lines, right? I've asked you about leadership. I asked you about service. What did you learn about yourself in the last 10 years? Because again, it's a 24/7 sort of job. As somebody who has gotten emails from you in the middle of the literal middle of the night. I don't know how you do it, but what have you learned about yourself? What's different? How did this job help shape you in some ways?
I think what I've tried to do, and you don't always bring your work to the home, but I want to always touch something once, like talk about something once, solve it, define it, work it. Right. But like my proverbial inbox of email or the paper is I'm not going to hold the football. Yeah. So when I see something has to be done with it and not deferred. And so it's you really develop that as almost like an athletic skill. Yeah, right. And you just run hard with it. And so every night before I go to bed, I'm not having lingering emails or things to be done. Now, having said that, I did stop sending emails at 3 a.m. I keep them in my draft folder. So a lot of people are really impressed when 8:30 comes. It's like, well, I got 5 emails in a row from you.
He was really cranking them out.
You're really working hard to start the day. And I was like, well, I've already been up for 5 hours.
What are you going to miss about this? Because I can imagine somebody who's doing something as much 24/7 sort of gig. What are you going to miss?
There's going to be a withdrawal symptom. Yeah. And I don't know what it is. But it's like just yesterday, I spoke before the Hopewell Prince George Chamber of Commerce. Right. I would have never thought the Chesterfield County Administrator would be the invited guest of that body. Right. Good people doing good things, not necessarily doing them in Chesterfield. Yeah. But they look up to what we are doing and want to emulate, from their business world, how business and government should work with each other. And of course, I have people around me here that are preparing good talking points and slides to show, and I just got up there and I just winged it, and just really talk to them about what quality of life is, and how they are a part of defining it. How you teaching a child to be career ready, college ready, military ready. Just do what you can to help out the next generation, and then let them shine. And They love that speech because everyone can relate to, helping out a child. Yeah, true. And if you can't do that, then you should move. Yeah,
then you should move. You should go somewhere else where
I got lists of localities they can go to.
Do you have any immediate plans for after July 1st? I asked you this beforehand, and I wasn't thinking maybe this would have come up, but it kind of goes along with what you're kind of describing here. What are some of your initial plans for after you actually leave the building for the last time?
Well, I'm married to a school teacher, so Suzanne's always enjoyed the summers, off like any good school teacher would, because they work hard the other 9-10 months of the year. So we're going to actually spend more time together than we ever did before. So ask me July 15th if that's
if things are going well.
If things are going well.
It's okay if July 15th you start knocking on the door asking to come back in.
Yeah, but I've told people that I'm here to volunteer. I'm here to stay. Yeah. People always think that everyone's asking me if I'm moving. And I said that would really be disingenuous to what I've been preaching. That we're building the community for people to come here as a young adult. And then stay here, have raised a family, and then stay here as an empty nester. So I've created the environment for people to stay. So why wouldn't I stay?
Yeah, and your kids are pretty spread out now, right? I mean, it's not like they're all in Cincinnati, for example, and you can just move there.
That's right, New York City, Philadelphia, and Houston.
Right.
But I'm hoping they're all having that big city experience for careers and certain opportunities. But again, I think what we've created in Chesterfield, in fairness, the region, that there should be something for a child to come back to. It'd be a lot easier for us to do childcare than have to take a flight each day. And or, as time goes on, elder care is another topic that's growing, and having children and family closer is much better than relying upon the unknown.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question about legacy. And I know it's one that's hard to grapple with, and I'm going to just ask you to go on the journey with me, because I'm curious what you think people will remember most about your time here in Chesterfield.
Well, hopefully county administrators, like MacArthur, we fade away, and it is, the momentum is going to be in so many different facets. But this 10-year window, if people look back, and they're going to say this was a good time. Now, having said that, we did have a pandemic, but we rose above it. So it really was a definite 10 steps back. But within moments, we were going 11 steps forward. Yeah. We didn't have economic recession, so that was a good run, and there's, there will be one in the future, just like any economic cycle is. Yeah. We really diversified, our population and age groups. We've caught up to the school factor, and again, the county, shouldn't always just take credit when schools do something good and ignore it when something's not going right. But we've been part of that journey with the schools of really just trying to work with a school board that's really 50% of our budget, 65,000 students. And, I think we positioned them real well to have students in an environment to learn. Yeah.
Now I'm going to contrast the question of what you think people will remember most about your time in Chesterfield with my last question is, what do you want folks to remember about your time? What do you want them when they look back on your tenure? What do you want them to think?
That I was there for them, whether it's in person or spirit, that I basically went anywhere anyone asked me to go to. I've spoken to, Mrs. Smith at her kitchen table because something was, wrong in her yard, that I may have not been able to help with, but I wanted to show empathy towards the topic, and I've spoken amongst thousands of people. So but both of them are just as important to me, and so there's no hierarchy in the customer. All 400,000 people above us are all equal in my eyes.
I'm going to leave you with this quote. What was really important was his ability to work with people. His direct reports we felt were excellent. We looked at his performance reviews. That was excellent as well. He's done a great job, and we believe very seriously that he will do an excellent job moving forward in the county. Do you want to know? Do you know who that is?
No.
That's the late Jim Holland on the day that you were announced as the new county administrator.
I was thinking that, but I don't want to go there. But it warms my heart.
Yeah, because if there was anybody who knew excellence, he talked about it all the time. And, I think Mr. Holland, if he was here with us, he would say that he was right that day. So,
and just to give a remembrance of him, he was the one board member I did know because of his regional bodies that he was on that I was a part of as well. So I was like, this is one of five that I knew well. Right. And I was like, if that's representative of, and he's doing everything he's done and wants to be reelected and all these things over these times, there's something good there.
There must be something good about Chesterfield. Well, Dr. Casey, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for all of your support of what we do, and certainly of your time coming on the podcast through the years. We very much appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I thank you, Brad.
All right. Make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield Virginia, all one word. On Facebook, you can check out our podcast page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or Overcast, wherever it is that your shows are sold. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating review, we appreciate it. As always, a video version of our show is available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website at Chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's where you can submit feedback anytime, make a suggestion, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7 on the weekends at noon. That is Comcast Channel 98 and Verizon Channel 28. Lastly, check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. My thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Stitch and Media Services for all they do. And my thanks to you for joining us today. So from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care. From blogs to podcasts.
And I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again.
Weekly video segments and newsletters,
Social media, the latest community news,
And this is your Chesterfield News Minute for September 19th.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.